Welcome back, Wolfpack. This is going to be your guide on all of the move stones in Pokemon Quest. Hopefully you've picked up Pokemon Quest. If you haven't, I highly recommend getting it. Today we're going to be talking about not power stones, but the move stones. The stones that you can add on to your Pokemon to give their moves an additional effect. So the move stones that you get, you can unlock through playing the game normally. You can buy them, and sometimes you randomly pick them up. Today I was fortunate enough to get a Stay Strong Stone just from a random expedition, as well as a lot of these Broad Burst Stones and an additional Scattershot Stone. So they're not really easy to get, but they do drop, so don't worry about having to buy them. They do drop in the expeditions. They're just very, very, very rare. More rare than the golden power stones. So let's talk about the stones one by one. I'll give you sort of the pros and cons. Let's talk about the weightless stone. The weightless stone gives your move wait time minus 5% wait time, meaning that, for example, Stun Spore has a wait time of 3. Okay, so if you load this up with weightless stones like these, you're getting minus 15% wait time on Stun Spore, so you can spam Stun Spore over and over and over and over again, and that wait goes from 3 to something else. You do the math. So it's pretty good. Has a lot of synergy with the Whack Stone, which is what I want to talk about next. Whack Stone gives number of move repetitions plus 1, but it increases your wait time by 50%. Meaning you don't really want to give Whack Stone to your weaker Pokemon, because their wait time until they can use one of their moves is going to be increased by 50%. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to auto attack. They can still auto attack. They're just not going to be able to use their special moves for a while. Meaning if you stack multiple Whack Stones, they're going to be sitting there like a sitting duck. Talk about the Broad Burst Stone. The Broad Burst Stone gives attack width plus 1. Meaning if you have something like, let's just keep using Stun Spore as an example. The area of effect for Stun Spore is going to be a lot wider the more Broad Burst Stones you put in. We have 3 available slots. Now if I wanted to, I could just put 3 Broad Burst Stones into Vileplume, and Stun Spore would be an enormous area, right? You still have to wait on the charge up time. You still have to have the enemy Pokemon be in the area of effect. It doesn't just widen it to an enormous and broken amount, but it does widen your Pokemon's area of effect. Scattershot Stone gives number of shots plus 1, but the move's attack is minus 15%, meaning you get an additional shot, but your move overall is going to be weaker. So it'd be good for you to look at your move. My Golem has Stealth Rock. It's a base power attack of 120, and if I throw 2 Scattershot Stones, it's not going to be very strong. So minus 30% from 120 is not very good. So I might want to throw in a weightless stone or a Whack Stone. Now let's talk about the Shearing Stone. So it says effects for buddies percent 25%. Now this is only positive effects for buddies, so don't worry, this doesn't affect negative effects for your buddies. So if you're using a move like Takedown or anything that decreases your damage or increases the amount of damage that you take, this doesn't apply to your buddies. It's always positive effects. So let's see if we have anybody with a positive status move. I think we should have yeah, let's look at Executor. Executor and Execute very commonly come with Synthesis, so it'd be very good to put, I mean, pretty much its only use would be with the Shearing Stone. So now, instead of just using Synthesis on myself, I'm using Synthesis on my whole party. Now, if this move wasn't here, I could combo this with the Stay Strong Stone, but we will talk about that in a little bit. Actually, it's the next stone. So Stay Strong Stone is positive effect duration for your homies plus 25%, and negative effect duration for your homies, minus 25%, and for the enemy Pokemon, meaning that if I decide to use a move that lowers the enemy Pokemon's attack or lowers the enemy Pokemon's defense, the Stay Strong Stone is going to keep those effects down longer. I don't think, I'm not sure if I have a Pokemon that does any negative status moves. Let me check. Yeah, no. But if you had a Pokemon with a negative status move, the Stay Strong Stone will keep that negative status on them. Oh, Vileplume, duh. The Stay Strong Stone will keep that negative effect on them for longer. So, for example, if I put this Stay Strong Stone into Stun Spore, now when they're paralyzed, they're going to stay paralyzed 25% longer than normal. Now you can stack these, meaning up to 75% longer paralysis, which would be super duper broken. So let's move into pros and cons. Let's talk about the Weightless Stone. Pros is it reduces the cooldowns for your Pokemon's super moves, meaning you won't have to be stuck auto attacking as often. The cons are you're not getting to use any of the additional effects of something like the Birthstone, or even the Scattershot Stone, or the Shearing Stone or Stay Strong Stone, if you really want to take advantage of the Weightless Stone. Move wait time is only 5% mitigated, okay? It's not a whole lot. So if you really want to use this, you pretty much have to stack as many as you can, which the maximum is 3. So you really only get 15% less wait time with the Weightless Stone. So it's a good stone for something that has relatively low wait time, like Stun Spore, so you could just spam it over and over again. But for moves that have a longer wait time, it's not very good. And also, if you're trying to pair it with the Whack Stone, it's still 45% additional wait time. So the pros are, it's really good if your Pokemon has one move with a low wait time that you want to stack up a bunch of these and you're not going to use these for anything else except for spamming this one move that this Pokemon has. It's very good. But if you're trying to mix and match with other stones, it doesn't really work out that well. Pros and cons of the Whack Stone. The cons are fairly obvious. Move wait time plus 50%, and this does stack. So if I were to stack 2 Whack Stones, that's 100% wait time, doubling the wait time on this move. Now, fortunately, there are moves that have very low wait time, for example, Stun Spore, but there are moves that have very high wait time. Giga Impact, Petal Dance, those big Hyper Beam type moves, they have additional wait time. They do a lot of damage, but they have additional wait time. So if you want to run around spamming Giga Impact on your DLC Snorlax and you think it'd be a good idea to plug it with a bunch of Whack Stones, don't do it, because after your Snorlax is done attacking, which may or may not land on the enemy Pokemon, keep in mind, he's going to be sitting there for double the wait time of that attack. So pros, gives your Pokemon an additional attack. Cons, you're basically a sitting duck once you're done attacking. Birthstone. It's kind of like the Weightless Stone in, you know, it's really good to just stack on one attack. If you have Pokemon with multiple attacks, it's not as good because it only widens the attack by 1. But if you have something that has a large area of effect, the Birthstone widens that even more, and you can pair the Birthstone with maybe one Whack Stone. And then you could do maybe effects for buddies or something like that if it's a status move, or the Shearing Stone if it is an area of effect that may increase your own Pokemon's attack or defense. But overall, unless you're using a bunch of them, it doesn't really make that much of a difference, especially if you're using a Pokemon with a line attack move, meaning that it just shoots a single laser beam. The Birthstone isn't really good for that unless you're going to pair it with something like the Scattershot Stone. So it's a good move if you're using moves that already have multiple projectiles, or something like Earthquake. If you stack on Birthstones, the Earthquake area of effect is really big, and that's really helpful because typically Pokemon that are close range have moves like Earthquake and Stomp and stuff like that, or maybe a Gyarados or Ponyta with Bounce. The Birthstone is really good for that. But other than that, if you have a laser attack or something like that, it doesn't really you know, sing or metal sound or flash or stuff like that. Not really useful, not really a general stone to use. It's a very specific stone to use, which brings me to Scattershot Stone. Scattershot Stone, with giving you an additional shot, is cool, especially if you can work in some critical hit. If your Pokemon has a very high critical hit rate and you're using something like Stealth Rock, which shoots multiple projectiles, right? Creates pillars of stone from the ground, damaging enemies hit by them. If you want to throw in, you know, a couple of Scattershot Stones, you are going to be at maximum minus 45% of the move's effectiveness, so it does take away damage in exchange for the more possibilities of damage, if that makes sense. So pros is if you have a Pokemon with a move like Twister or Hurricane or Gust or something like Petal Dance or something that sends out multiple projectiles but it's already not very strong, you can just throw some Scattershot Stone on there and stack it with some critical hit or crit damage or maybe even some hit on healing, or healing on hit rather, to take full advantage of the Scattershot Stone. But in terms of synergy, it's very good, like with stuff like the Birthstone and the Whack Stone. Maybe if you throw one of each of these into a Pokemon that has a single move, it'd be very good. But for Pokemon with multiple moves, it's not really worth it to just throw one Scattershot Stone. So we're seeing a recurring theme with the stones. Unless you have a Pokemon with one move that you can dedicate a full build to, a lot of these stones aren't that good by themselves. Except for the Shearing Stone, okay? The Shearing Stone is very, very, very good. I don't know if the effect stacks. I'm guessing it does. And I'm guessing that since this the Stay Strong Stone specifically says duration, that this is only just a one-time use thing. So I haven't seen this stack multiple times, like you know, in the main series games, if you use Swords Dance, it's +2 attack, and then you could use it again and get +4. That's not what the Shearing Stone does. It just takes a move like you know, Synthesis, like we saw in the Executor, and makes it be able to pass the effects onto your party, right? So it's very, very good, but it's really only good for Pokemon that have multiple moves, one of them being the status move and then one of them being another, hopefully a damaging move. It's not really that good for stuff like if you want to slot it with multiple effects. It doesn't really have very good synergy with anything other than the Weightless Stone. Doesn't really have very good synergy with Scattershot or Broad Burst or even Whack Stone, because again, a lot of the effects, the boosting effects, they don't stack in this game. So really the only stone that it has synergy with is the Weightless Stone. So the pros are, it's a really, really powerful stone that turns you know, single target boosting moves into whole team boosting moves. And so if you can get something like let me see if I still have this Lickitung. It might be on my other account. Yeah, it's on my wife's account. But my wife's Lickitung has Belly Drum. And if that was to be able to be slotted with something like a Shearing Stone, that would be broken. That would be seriously broken, considering since it doesn't affect the amount of health that goes away. So Belly Drum in this game, you obviously sacrifice a little portion of your health to be able to boost all of your stats, but the minus health effect only affects the main Pokemon using the move and not the other Pokemon. So it's very, very broken in this game if it's able to be paired with the Shearing Stone, but most likely that would mean that that's the only Pokemon's move. So pros, you can pair it with the Weightless Stone. Cons, it's a very, very specific move stone, which brings us to Stay Strong Stone. Stay Strong Stone is the best move stone in the game. You can pair this with something like Ice Beam on this Porygon, and if they get frozen, they stay frozen for 25% longer. You can even slot it multiple times, bringing their frozen duration to 50%. You can pair the Stay Strong Stone with the Shearing Stone. I'm sorry, you can also pair the Shearing Stone with the Stay Strong Stone. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. But moving on to the Stay Strong Stone, you can pair it with the Shearing Stone. You could also pair it with the Weightless Stone. right? You compare the Stay Strong Stone with the Whack Whack Stone. It has really good synergy with all of the other stones because any possible effects like burn, paralysis, poison, sleep, frozen, if I didn't mention that already, it increases that effect duration by 25% for each of these stones that you have slotted. And if you pair this with the Shearing Stone, you use something like Synthesis or Belly Drum or Bulk Up or Work Up, any of those boosting attacks, that increases the duration on your own Pokemon as well. Now, this isn't negative effects on your own Pokemon, it's only positive effects and negative effects on the enemy Pokemon. So, pros of Stay Strong Stone, all pros. Cons, there's not really any cons because it has a very specific use and it's a really great stone. Maybe the only cons are if you want to use it, there's not very many uses. It sort of has limited usage because you basically just have to say, okay, I'm going to on this Porygon's Ice Beam, I'm going to sacrifice a Broad Burst Stone or a Whack Whack Stone or any other thing that you might want to do. You're essentially sacrificing a slot for the potential. Again, because, you know, all of these additional effects are just potential. It's not 100% active all the time, and there's nothing that increases, except for the Power Stones, the negative effect chance, right? Yeah, so it's basically chance based, but if you do have these slotted, when a negative effect happens, they will be under that duration for an additional 25% per stone. So, overall, let's recap. Weightless Stone. It's pretty good for moves that you want to spam all the time. It doesn't really mitigate the wait time from Whack Whack Stone. It's really good if you want to pair it with Scattershot Stone and spam a bunch of stuff on the field. It's really good with Shearing Stone and Stay Strong Stone if you want to spam a boosting move all the time. But usually it has sort of a counter synergy with Stay Strong Stone because when the cooldown is done with Weightless Stone, the Stay Strong Stone, you're still gonna have that buff, so you don't really need the Weightless Stone. So this is one of the weaker stones. Whack Whack Stone, sort of middle of the road for me because it's a trade-off, right? You can do a ton of damage in a very short amount of time, one attack after the other, but you're basically a sitting duck. So it's very good for your frontline tanks. It's also very good for your long-range Pokemon that you want to just keep spamming Gust or Twister or, you know, Sludge Bomb or something like that you want to keep away from your frontline close-range Pokemon. This is very good, but keep in mind that the big trade-off is you're a sitting duck for 50% per stone. Broad Burst Stone. Pretty much the it's the universal stone. You could pair it with a lot of stuff. It's really good. It doesn't affect self-boosting moves. It doesn't affect a whole lot in terms of the line moves, because the line, like the laser moves that do damage in a single line, just get bigger. They don't really do more damage. And so it's a fairly general use stone. Scattershot Stone. Really good if you want to pair it with the Whack Whack Stone and the Broad Burst Stone all together on your long-range Pokemon that you want to keep spamming those gusts, whirlwinds, whatever. You could also use this, I forgot to mention this, you can also use this on status moves like Whirlwind and Roar, because those don't just, it's not just an area of effect, there's actually I guess pellets or projectiles, so you can add additional projectiles to non-damaging moves like Roar and Whirlwind and stuff like that. So in that regard, it can be very good, but a lot of the times you don't want to mess up your positioning just to have an additional Roar projectile. This also works with Sing and stuff like Poison Powder. I don't think it affects, but it works with anything that has a projectile. Shearing Stone, one of the best stones in the game. I think that's why they make it really hard to get. I don't know how or why I got this, but I'm very glad that I did. Same goes for the Stay Strong Stone. Shearing Stone's very good. It has a very specific use, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. It's one of the strongest stones in the game. Same goes for Stay Strong Stone. So if I had to make a tier list, I would do Stay Strong, Shearing Stone, followed by Broad Burst, Whack Whack Stone, Scattershot, and then Weightless, in that order. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm going to do some more Pokemon Quest guides in the future. Let me know if this was helpful or if it wasn't helpful. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Thanks to everyone who consistently uploads artwork to the Discord. If you guys want to join that Discord, the link will be in the description. Looking good, guys. Keep it up.